Chapter 427, Crisis. Chapter 427, Crisis. Yuan Shan spat out frozen blood as he wobbled to his feet. Drifting flowers edifices profound ranked martial art, heavenly austere ice palm, trained to such perfection it can even freeze my demonic face seal. Congratulations, Lady of Steel. Valley Lord Yu's demonic face seal is too exquisite even for me to take lightly. It's all thanks to decades upon decades of hard work that I had the honor to match Valley Lord Yu's skills. With how grandmother wheezed, looking thin and pale, she wasn't faring much better either. Yuan Shan cupped his hands and withdrew. Yen Bagong laughed, stepping in next. Ha ha ha, grandmother has aged with grace, coming above even the likes of Valley Lord Yu. How about you humor this old man next? Yen Bagong, you lowlife, you just want to take advantage of grandmother having fought a hard battle and being exhausted. You're just picking on the weak. One overseer cursed. Yen Bagong took it all in stride and showed a light smile. That's a little off, my lady. We three houses joined hands just so we don't have to go one-on-one. How does picking on the weak fit here? We just want to duel with grandmother right now for a bit instead of starting the assault. We're doing you all a favor. Yen Bagong justified himself, leaving the overseers speechless. Grandmother let out a cold laughter, her eyes icy. Yen Bagong implied he was giving drifting flowers edifices leeway, but one thing remained unchanged. In an all-out war, drifting flowers edifices had the disadvantage, but it wasn't going to fall that easily, not when having a defensive array. While grandmother was the pillar of drifting flowers edifices. With her being dead, the battle would already be over. Even with the array, when there was no one to direct it, defeat was certain. Yen Bagong and company wanted to cut the head and the body would follow. These duels were in fact in their complete favor. The astute grandmother picked up on their little trick right away. But she accepted anyway. The three lords' defeat would have the same drastic effect on the enemy as her death. It went without saying that it would work wonders in cutting drifting flowers edifices' casualties short and would stall for their allies' support. It really was the best choice in drifting flowers edifices' current situation. No matter how weak grandmother felt, she had to push on. Just that revulsion at Yen Bagong preaching righteousness always came to her. Both sides are fighting a battle of minds, for their own interest, yet you want to look cool doing it. Yen Bagong, come. Grandmother had an icy air and a smirk. Yen Bagong smiled there, calm and carefree. But the next second he turned savage, launching Rainbow Cloud Palm with both hands, Pill King Hall's signature move. Grandmother knew it was coming and had a shield of ice around her as she went on the offensive. The poison was acidic, but it wouldn't eat through the clear ice that fast. It took no longer than a flash for grandmother to pass through the heavy poison cloud and reach Yen Bagong with a palm strike. Watching the icy palm inching towards his chest, Yen Bagong's heart tensed. His fate would soon be the same as Yuan Shan before him. He might be on edge at the incoming ice, but not panicked. He even had time to show off a creepy smile. Grandmother had a bad feeling about this. Whoosh! From the thick fog, one man shot in front of Yen Bagong and punched. It was Mary Woods' Lin Ruffing. You? Grandmother cried. Lin Ruffing grinned, one and only. The punch and palm collided. Lin Ruffing's savage power pierced the ice on her palm and wreaked havoc in her body. With a sharp sound, the icy shield collapsed and 10 fierce blows hammered her body, sending her flying. She shot through the poison cloud and into the ground. The blood she spat tinted the ground in eerie colors. This was the worst outcome. Grandmother was heavily wounded and poisoned by the Rainbow Cloud Palm. Puffing out more blood, grandmother glared at the two above with endless hatred. Mary Wood's profound ranked martial art, Empty Cloud Art. Our Empty Cloud Art is based on speed, splitting an attack into several blows to tear up your insides. The more advanced the cultivation, the more splits. You may have ice protecting you, but not even that can block all of them. I have managed to unleash 20 splits, ha ha ha. Lin Ruffing laughed in pride. The overseers rushed at grandmother's side, giving a hateful glare at the two lords above. you no good two-bit filthy scumbags. Is that how a house lord acts nowadays, stabbing people in the back? Oh, no, no, no. Didn't I say that already? This is a coalition of 3 houses, anything goes. Besides, us two work great together and we haven't even surrounded you with our forces yet. What's wrong with that? Yen Bagong snickered. The women's eyes spat fire from all the rage boiling in their hearts. Grandmother panted, finding it hard to even speak, take me back, now. Yen Bagong snickered, you won't get away that easy. Attack! Their head is down. It's the perfect moment to take them all down. Understood. The sea of people came in like a tide. The overseers rushed to get grandmother back to safety. But Yen Bagong's team of 2 was faster, making a sinister strike at the retreating grandmother. Take her out of the picture and the drifting flowers edifices would follow. The other women rushed to defend her. The overseers stood no chance in front of 2 house lords. They were dead in one blow, unable to stall 1 second. 2 more turned back to attack, but grandmother stopped them. Grandmother! They all cried. Grandmother sighed, I won't be able to survive this, but you are the future of drifting flowers edifices. Go, withdraw. Let Iris become the edifice lord. I will hold them off. Grandmother, no. They all teared up in sadness. Grandmother barked, you bunch of ignorant girls, how can you not see what's in front? I have to hold them back or we'll all die. Go back and wait. We will get our chance when support comes. Grandmother trailed off. Not even she was certain that drifting flowers edifices could come out alive, but held on to hope still. The women saw the steel gaze of grandmother and despite their distress, they nodded and withdrew to drifting flowers city. Grandmother showed a clear smile, watching them go, silly girls, take care. Ha ha ha, Chu Bijuan, you should care about yourself first. The 2 closed in, Yen Bagong's creepy voice reaching her ears. Grandmother had a cold smile, her mind set, humph, Yen Bagong, Lin Ruffing, as long as there's 1 breath left in this body, you will never tread 1 step in drifting flowers edifices. Grandmother flew high at the 2. The 2 met her fearlessly. She had the Lady of Steel moniker, but with how downtrodden she was from that last blow, they wouldn't qualify as house lords if they backed off now. With a bang, the 2 sides clashed. The shock wave turned everything around them to dust. The 2 kept on attacking, even as grandmother was spurting blood and lost consciousness. Her frail and damaged body slammed into the ground. Grandmother! The women shed tears of pain, at their helplessness and their weakness. Yen Bagong walked over and struck again, ha ha ha, the great Lady of Steel's head is mine for the taking. Something shot straight for Yen Bagong. He squinted and looked shocked. Killing with intent. A radiant stage expert. Chapter 428, 3 Venerables. Chapter 428, 3 Venerables. Bam! Yen Bagong panicked at the incoming soul attack and put up his defenses, despite being a mere profound heaven cultivator with no chance against a radiant stage expert. The intent left the 2 groaning. Yen Bagong even flew away, leaving a trail of blood in the air. Lin Ruffing stopped dead in his tracks, trembling and rooted. Rustle. 3 graceful figures floated between grandmother and the lords, drifting flowers edifices venerables. Looking back at the unconscious grandmother, one shouted, what are you waiting for? Get her out of here. Understood. The overseer's morale soared, flying away with grandmother. They were at ease knowing the venerables had their back. The tide of people came to a halt as well. Humph, you lowlifes dare set your eyes on drifting flowers edifices? The venerables faced the thousands with angry rebuke. Yen Bagong barely stood his ground, pale and weary, yet not a trace of fear, he, big words for just a bunch of broads. If not for the imperial family's help in the past millennium, you'd never see today. Don't think for a second that being in the radiant stage will change anything. Which of us houses doesn't have its own venerables? Now more than ever, when we have the great regent estate taking the lead. Ha ha ha, we are the ones behind the siege. Laughter shook the area. To everyone's shock, an astonishing power surged as a grizzled old man showed his face. His eyes flashing like lightning, his face excited. Each of his breath felt like the world was sucked away then unleashed back as a storm. The three venerables squinted and shouted in shock, Huangpu Fenglei. My purpose here is to deal with you three. His head held impossibly high, Huangpu Fenglei flicked his hand with disdain, I am not one to pick on women, so I'll take you all on. Twitching, the three turned grave. Despite living in seclusion, they had all heard of Huangpu Fenglei's name. He was a rare peak radiant stage expert in this world. The ones capable of fighting him in Tianyu could be counted on one hand. Sure, there were three of them, but the strongest was only in the fifth layer. It'd hardly make a difference. But as Drifting Flowers Edifice's venerables, having enjoyed its resources for decades, they weren't about to flee in the face of danger. They were women, but they were principled, even more so than some men. With a deep breath to steady their nerves, one showed her will to fight or die trying, sisters, today's the day we will fight for justice. Ha ha ha, it won't matter. We've lived together and we'll die together. A fitting end for our 100-year friendship. The two laughed. The first smiled. Having reached an understanding, all flew at the mighty Huangpu Fenglei with not 1 ounce of fear. Huangpu Fenglei praised, I've heard of Drifting Flowers Edifice's women being staunch and now I see it for myself. You are far better than some male wolves drunk on power. Huangpu Fenglei continued, I will give you 3 free shots at me before I attack, seeing as I'm so kind. Begin. Humph, thank you for your consideration, sir. We're happy to accept. Huangpu Fenglei was tough and the three were not fools. If the guy gave them 3 free moves, they weren't about to refuse. They had a non-zero chance, impossible odds true, but there was always the luck of the moment. The least they could manage was injure him, stopping him from breaking the array. It would give some value to their deaths, knowing to have returned the kindness Drifting Flowers Edifices offered them for so long. With one less warrior on the enemy's side, Drifting Flowers Edifices' chances would rise. The three turned solemn, each taking a direction and making a sign. The wind picked up and the yuan qi surged. A white mist formed between the three, linking them and feeding off each other's strengths, to their very peak of power. An ice phoenix took form between them, 300 meters large and shrieking. Huangpu Fenglei's brow shuddered, combination martial art. I never knew you'd be so in tune with each other, of the same heart and mind. Humph, who needs your praise? You should take this instead. The leader of the three scoffed and pushed out her palms. The other two matched her perfectly. Shriek. The ice phoenix unleashed its full killing intent on Huangpu Fenglei as it charged. All in its wake turned to ice, even air itself. Yen Bagong cried out in shock. Radiant stage experts weren't without their fame. While a combined attack from 3 went farther. Such an attack would wipe them out, peak profound heaven experts, along with half the people there. Forget about fighting Drifting Flowers Edifices at this point. It was a miracle if the army stuck together. Yen Bagong and Lin Ruffing exchanged a glance and cold sweat ran down their spines. Thank the Maker they had Regent Estate on their side, with High Venerable's personal interference. The casualties would have been horrible without him. These broads sure are tough. Unlike everyone's panicked look, Huangpu Fenglei praised and looked on with a calm expression. When the ice phoenix got near him, he waved, Humph, this skill sure is dangerous, but not to me. Huangpu Fenglei clutched the ice phoenix's neck and squeezed. With a bang, the phoenix crumbled into glittering ice. Huangpu Fenglei grinned, first. The ice fragments released an unbearable coldness, unleashing a frosty wave straight towards Huangpu Fenglei. It swallowed him in its midst, leaving behind nothing, not even Huangpu Fenglei's body, just a sparkling human-sized ice sculpture. High Venerable! Everyone cried. With Huangpu Fenglei getting done in from the three hags' attack, how would the rest fare? Amidst their anxiety and fear, cracking sounds revealed the breaking of the sculpture. With a bang to finish, Huangpu Fenglei was revealed in all his glory with a manic laughter. Who knew such an attack hid an even stronger one? Ha ha ha, how amazing! Not that it did any good to the likes of me. High Venerable is invincible, the crowd cheered. Whooshes sounded as the three venerables flashed right in Huangpu Fenglei's face. Huangpu Fenglei, we knew this attack won't work, so we prepared a little something. The leader shouted. The other two also yelled and their fingers formed a sword. Profound ranked martial art, Dark Heaven Finger. Huangpu Fenglei gave his all to resist this time around. But the ice and coldness from before had him slowed down, giving the three venerables enough time for their sword fingers to hit his pressure points. With the sound of freezing water, Huangpu Fenglei felt icy coldness invade his body and freeze his veins. He was shocked that Yuan Qi could hardly stop it. This can't be. With his power, not even these three together could freeze him, yet now. Huangpu Fenglei turned grave, and doubt sprouted. His fists clenched and body shuddered. Chapter 429, Death Before Dishonor. Chapter 429, Death Before Dishonor. The leader had a cold smile. Huangpu Fenglei, did you think that combination art was all to deceive you? Wrong, so very wrong, ha ha ha. The ice on Huangpu Fenglei grew harder and thicker, his body soon became rigid and only his eyes were moving. He ended up getting caged inside the ice like a lion, poised to jump out at a moment's notice and rip its quarry to pieces. Don't look at me like that. There's no chance of coming out of this. The Ice Phoenix's cold energy is keeping you frozen, not to mention the icy energy in your body keeping your Yuan Qi sealed. This way, our Dark Heaven Finger works in tandem with the first attack and freezes you solid. The leader's eyes sparkled with the joy of victory. Ha ha ha, you may be a peak expert, but with your Yuan Qi on ice, even if you get out of our move your power will be cut in half. Huangpu Fenglei, you brought this on yourself. Despite being frozen stiff, Huangpu Fenglei didn't panic, speaking in a sinister tone, hags, don't write me off so early. Your parlor tricks are no match for me. Huangpu Fenglei let out dragonic roars and exploded in a golden shower. Roar! 9 golden dragons shot from inside him. The powerful Yuan Qi waves shook the ice off and sent the 3 women flying as well. The 3 left a trail of blood as they hit the ground. Looking up, they watched Huangpu Fenglei come down like a god, wrapped in 9 dragons and with an overbearing aura. That relentless power surging around him was testament to his state of health, undamaged, untouched. It came at an even greater shock to the women, followed by despair. If even their combined attacks couldn't do anything, this man was a freak, godlike. They lowered their heads, bitter, having lost all hope. Huangpu Fenglei eased up on the glaring light show and overlooked them like the emperor as he raised a second finger. Imperial Tyrant body art is the strongest cultivation method among the houses. No one can stop me. That was the second move. Sisters, we have one more chance. Have you thought about it? The leader showed resolve, ready to die. The other 2 smiled. What's there to think? Of our peak skills, we can only use that. Let's do it. The leader nodded, getting their feet under them and watching Huangpu Fenglei above without any fear. Huangpu Fenglei, you better keep your word. Since you said, you'll give us 3 free moves, then 3 is what we have. Of course. My word is my bond. But what could you possibly come up with that can work? Humph, Huangpu Fenglei snorted. The leader was calm. Nothing, only our blood for our house. The 3 jumped high at Huangpu Fenglei with power and speed. Huangpu Fenglei frowned, unclear of their aim. What other combination art are they using? Why can't I sense anything? The venerables took 3 directions around him and shot their palms forward. With 3 sounds, the palms impacted Huangpu Fenglei's perfect body, without so much as a scratch. Huangpu Fenglei just took it like a champ, with arms crossed. He looked at them curious. Is this your final move, a palm? There was not even a skill behind it. There's no way you can harm me with that. You've lost your last chance. Ha ha ha, thank you Sir Huangpu for giving us these free moves, but this palm is only half of it. With an odd smile, the leader made a sign. The other two followed. Huangpu Fenglei was puzzled. Do they want to use some super secret art? But why did that sign feel so familiar? He shot his eyes wide open and cried, self-destruction. You! This is our last move, death before dishonor. The women grinned. Huangpu Fenglei was scared silly. With the three radiant stage experts so close and primed to blow, not even Imperial Tyrant body art could bear it. He used all his yuan qi to unleash a golden glow and make the trio fly. Too little, too late. With one last smile, to Huangpu Fenglei's frantic look, three earth-shattering explosions wrecked the place. Boom! The huge balls of flame swallowed the sky, shaking up everything. Even with the array in place, Drifting Flowers City was now in ruins. Yen Bagong ducked just as the tide of flames passed him. One careless twitch could burn his head clean off. Once the cool wind set in again, the people looked shell-shocked. The mountains around them were now flatlands while the trees floated around as ashes. The bone-tempering disciples had their meridians crushed and died. Maybe they wanted a closer look at death, or just sheer bad luck. They stuck their neck out to see the glorious apocalyptic flame, only to have half their body burnt, testament to their folly. Yen Bagong's heart was shaking all over. What a frightening explosion! And that came out of three radiant stage experts' self-destruction. Then what about the person at their core, their High Venerable? He looked around in panic and shouted, High Venerable, are you all right? Bam! A black figure slammed the ground. Yen Bagong rushed over to see Huangpu Fenglei's face burnt black, laying there broken and robbed of any air of superiority. Blood spurted out and Huangpu Fenglei wheezed. Looking around at the faces, he rejoiced at his new lease on life. High Venerable, you're amazing to come out alive from that. You're the only one in Tianyu to pull it off. Yen Bagong gave a thumbs up and a good ass licking. Huangpu Fenglei had no time for his gibberish, frowning, why did they do it? You mean those Drifting Flowers edifices venerables? Yen Bagong smiled, who cares? They couldn't beat you so they decided to drag you down as well. But they never thought, even this couldn't kill you. You're still in one piece. They died for nothing, the idiots. No. Huangpu Fenglei shook his head weakly. A cultivator that has reached the radiant stage would cherish his life above everything. They would never throw their lives away unless it is the very last resort. They could have used the Drifting Flowers edifice's array to stall me and escape. So why? Yen Bagong paused, pig-headed, perhaps? That's putting it mildly. Huangpu Fenglei barely propped his body. Drifting Flowers edifices, a women's domain, hasn't survived all these years on empty words alone. Huangpu Fenglei limped away. Yen Bagong asked, High Venerable, aren't we attacking? Of course we are, fool. But that's your problem. I need to dress my wounds. Can't you see I can't even fly and have a busted leg? Glaring back, Huangpu Fenglei cursed. But he didn't leave without a final piece of advice, don't get careless. Drifting Flowers edifices women's can't be underestimated. Yen Bagong nodded, exchanged a glance with Lin Ruffing, looking at your wretched state, we can glean that much. Though. They looked back at Drifting Flowers City and felt a headache coming. Without a radiant stage to support them, how many years would it take to break through? The Regent Estate's experts only acted as support, leaving the heavy lifting to them. The only helper, Huangpu Fenglei, was now away on medical leave. Chapter 430, Baiting the Aid. Chapter 430, Baiting the Aid. Boom! The explosion shook all of Drifting Flowers City, houses crumbled and turned to dust. Drifting Flowers edifice's main hall had calm and wise women handling everyday affairs, but they were now crying in panic. Grandmother, pale and weak, lay on the floor, rocking to the explosion's rhythm. The odd bump into the ground of her head had her frowning and opening her eyes. Aunt Tao, grandmother's awake. Peony Overseer perked up. Drifting Flowers Edifice's head alchemist, Tao Danyang, rushed over. Grandmother's injury is stable, but... What? Peony Overseer asked. Tao Danyang sighed. Removing the rainbow cloud palm's poison is beyond these wrinkled hands' ability. They alone hold the antidote. What do we do now? Peony Overseer asked. Pill King Hall is right outside our gates. Are we supposed to go out there and grab one to force an antidote out of them? Everyone shook their heads from how powerless they were. Pill King Hall was already strong by themselves, but now in the three-house coalition it would be even tougher for Drifting Flowers Edifices to deal with them. Going out now was plain suicide. Iris Overseer smiled. Peony, don't be nervous. Pill King Hall had a monopoly on the Rainbow Cloud Palm's antidote until now. Did you forget how Zhuofan deciphered the antidote at the 100-pill meeting, curing grandmother, Aunt Tao and many of our sisters? Even their top alchemist, Vicious Pill King, is now under the Luo clan. And with him as an ally, there's no need to fear any poison. Yeah, we just have to get in touch with them and grandmother will be fine. Aunt Tao nodded, relieved. She felt like having Zhuofan as an ally was the best thing that ever happened to them. The rainbow cloud palms squeezing on them every minute of every hour was now a thing of the past. Peony Overseer pouted, her face unnatural, but that prick stole our precious heirloom. How can we trust him? It will be great if he returns it. But if he doesn't? Grandmother's faint voice trailed off weakly. Then she came to a decision and spoke firmly, all we can do is move on. If Drifting Flowers Edifices is to survive, we need to compromise. We need allies like him the most right now. What is the point of getting the treasure back only to find a city filled with corpses? All became pensive. Their respect for grandmother was growing. Grandmother had earned the respect of all houses for a reason. And for the same reason she kept Drifting Flowers Edifices afloat all this time. As a house lord, she had to have the mind and eyes that went beyond the scope of the common man, with vaulting ambition and steel resolve. Always thinking long-term and never nitpicking on the details. And in their final hour, Drifting Flowers Edifices needed allies the most. They couldn't throw away Zhuofan over some Bodhi root. It was the same as cutting off one's legs. So you want to lean on Luo clan? Peony Overseer pouted, still against it. Zhuofan stole their stuff yet they still turned to him for help. Wasn't that like asking a thief for asylum? Drifting Flowers Edifice's name would be dragged through the mud, her sisters as well. Grandmother smiled in reply, yes, Zhuofan had made us a promise back when he was in trouble. We can rely on him. Now that he is one of the big players, he is our support. It's all just a repaid investment, ha ha ha. Peony, you usually go off the deep end and are frank. You are kind at heart, but not suited to be the edifice lord. As the one bearing the responsibility of Drifting Flowers Edifices, one has to be flexible and set your gaze beyond the present moment. A useless thing like reputation will only drag us down. Grandmother shook her head. Peony Overseer blushed, knowing her own defects as well. What was that large noise just now anyway? Grandmother turned to the rest. They all shook their heads. Someone burst in tears, grandmother, overseers, the three venerables. What about the venerables? Grandmother asked frantically. Sniffing, the girl wailed, the venerables self-destructed to deal with Huangpu Fenglei. What? Grandmother shuddered then spat blood, tears streaking her face. Grandmother. The others panicked. Grandmother waved them off, it was my mistake to lead them to their doom. Chapter 431, Most Dangerous Ally. Chapter 431, Most Dangerous Ally. Sir Leng, any updates? In a quiet little room, Leng Wuchang was sitting at a desk deep in thought when Huangpu Tianyuan came in laughing, with Drifting Flowers Edifices under siege for 3 months now, small fries keep on coming. It's so boring. When will a big fish bite anyway? Sir Leng, what do you reckon that big fish is planning right now? After a bow, Leng Wuchang sighed, Estate Lord, our plan and reality do not match, I'm afraid. Where exactly? Huangpu Tianyuan asked. Leng Wuchang spoke. Our main plan to bait the aid involved faking an attack on Drifting Flowers edifices to draw Zhuofan out. With the State Lord's 9 Dragon's diamond body, we'd catch Zhuofan by surprise and finish him off in one swift blow. However. What? Huangpu Tianyuan asked impatiently. Leng Wuchang shook his head. The way it has played out is that we've fallen for it. What? How? Huangpu Tianyuan jerked. Leng Wuchang said, by being a borrowed knife. Unsettled, Huangpu Tianyuan eyed him. Leng Wuchang explained, it may be that we predicted Zhuofan's aim all wrong. His vision is far wider. We thought he would protect his allies to secure his power. But with Drifting Flowers edifices under siege for months yet there being no sign of Luo clan, it goes to show that he has abandoned them. If anything, he was counting on us to destroy Drifting Flowers edifices for him. What? Huangpu Tianyuan trembled. To what end? What does he get from this? Humph, plenty. Leng Wuchang snickered. A man without roots is the easiest to sway. Even if Drifting Flowers edifices survived and he won in the end, Drifting Flowers edifices, being who it is, will remain only an ally. But when Drifting Flowers edifices falls, he'd accept the women with open arms, getting them on his side and leaving only the world for the taking. Such a cunning plan, what a twisted mind. Even I could only deduce this from the current state. Zhuofan is a truly diabolical mastermind. By my calculations, he not only wants us to destroy Drifting Flowers edifices, but all his allies. He will then take them in like a good Samaritan and they, in their moment of gratitude and weakness, will accept the conversion wholeheartedly. Even Leng Wuchang felt cold sweat on his brow at this point. Zhuofan's insidious ploys never left room for errors, using cloak and daggers to stab at his own allies through his enemies. Even Leng Wuchang had fallen for such a mastermind's devious schemes. Zhuofan is the most dangerous ally so far. Huangpu Tianyuan panicked inside. Veiled Dragon Pavilion was the first to care for the Luo clan and Zhuofan once had close ties with Chu Qingcheng. Is he that dead inside to throw everything aside and plot against them? That's what makes Zhuofan such an abomination. Leng Wuchang sighed. A man of ambition only looks at things from a perspective and never lets some platonic relationships drag him down. Huangpu Tianyuan nodded, but how did he know we'd attack Drifting Flowers edifices with the 3 houses? Ha ha ha, Estate Lord, do you remember when we planned to divide our forces into 3 and take them all down at the same time? Who was it that proposed we attack one house at a time and bait the aid? Leng Wuchang's eyes glinted. Huangpu Tianyuan shouted, Fang Qiubai. Him indeed. Leng Wuchang nodded. I didn't think much of it at the time, figuring flushing Zhuofan out and removing him from the picture at the earliest was better. But now, ha ha ha, it has been the imperial family playing us all along. The emperor's involved too? Yes. Leng Wuchang patted the shocked Huangpu Tianyuan. Huangpu Tianyuan was still finding it odd. Doesn't the emperor want us to eliminate Zhuofan? Why is he on his side now? Was that ruckus at the palace all an act for the regent estate's eyes? Not at all. Estate Lord is overthinking things. Back when Zhuofan and the emperor had a falling out, the emperor wanted to get rid of Zhuofan, but also of us. Leng Wuchang explained with a smile, ha ha ha, here's what I think happened. The emperor had divine dragons come to us as helpers but used them to find our plan of attack on Drifting Flowers edifices and gave it over to Zhuofan. With the prick's cunning nature, he knew that standing on the side and taking a beating will get his allies wiped out. So he attacked Hell Valley. The emperor caught on to his action and had the divine dragons propose the baiting the aid plan, not to draw Zhuofan out but to give him time to ruin Pill King Hall and Merry Woods. The imperial family's master plan isn't to have one of us two destroyed, but to have both of us on our last leg, at our weakest. Leng Wuchang got the gist of it, more or less. Except for one thing. It was Zhuofan's intelligence network that got wind of their plans and it was him cueing the emperor in, leaving the imperial family to be one step behind. Zhuofan had complete control of the situation across the board, something the imperial family never intended to happen. But it wasn't something one could hold against unwanted contriver, since the human pillars were a super-secret art from Zhuofan's endless bag of tricks. Even if he smashed his head and combed through the gray matter, he'd still not figure it out. Figuring as much as he did was quite commendable though. Sighing, Huangpu Tianyuan nodded, damn the emperor and his sharp mind. Just how can I take advantage of you? What's the point in staying here then if Zhuofan is a no-show? Men, everyone go back to Drifting Flowers edifices and capture it in one move. We'll then handle Veiled Dragon Pavilion and Sword Marquise Abode the same way. We just have to be faster than Zhuofan. Catch him when he's down, then take the emperor's head. Not so fast. Leng Wuchang said, Estate Lord, we have to follow the emperor's intent. Or instead of watching from the sidelines, he'd see Zhuofan weak and help him from the shadows. That's the worst outcome for us. What's there to fear? With my 9 dragons' diamond body, the world. It is for this reason that we need to exercise caution. Leng Wuchang cut him off. Your secret is to deal with Zhuofan. If it comes out now, he'll place some counters and we'll have an even harder time dealing with him. Estate Lord, don't you want to take in these vagrants? Huangpu Tianyuan showed a wide smile. Sir Leng, you mean? Zhuofan's scheme is groundbreaking and ingenious. Why not apply the same idea to our side? With a sneaky smile, Leng Wuchang continued, he wants us to help him get his allies in line, and that's what we'll do. But won't he help us getting our own allies as well? Hell Valley's people are already homeless and can only turn to Regent Estate for shelter. That only leaves Pill King Hall and Merry Woods. Estate Lord only needs to seize this chance to subdue them and their lands for the future. Isn't it a shame to let such a prime chance go? Huangpu Tianyuan cackled, Sir Leng, you're saying we should thank Zhuofan for giving us such a wonderful idea. We'd never thought such an ingenious trick can get us all the 7 houses and without any bad blood between us either. Ha ha ha, you should show your thanks by leaving his corpse intact. Leng Wuchang smiled. Huangpu Tianyuan laughed. After all the talks, nothing had changed. Regent Estate's experts were still lazily waiting for the baiting the aid to catch something, and Huangpu Tianyuan's 3 allies were still working their asses off attacking Drifting Flowers City. A few more days later, however, Drifting Flowers City was still holding solid, but with heavy casualties. 7 overseers had died as well. The defenses wouldn't hold for long if this kept up. Whoosh! In their moment of great despair, a green jade slip flew into Grandmother's hand. Grandmother laughed, it's from our allies. We're saved. Hope blossomed. Grandmother scanned the jade slip and froze. With a crack, the jade scattered into pieces on the floor. Chapter 432, On Your Own. Chapter 432, On Your Own. What's wrong, Grandmother? Everyone cried. Grandmother sighed, it is a message from Pavilion Lord Long. Regent Estate has indeed assisted in our siege. But instead of helping Hell Valley and the others, it is stopping our reinforcements. Pavilion Lord Long's side has suffered heavy casualties and was forced into retreating. We're on our own. What? The women shook their heads in grief. They had held on so far, hanging on to the hope that help was on the way. But with even their support under heavy attack, they had sunk into the pits of despair. They could hold on for just a few short months before they would be breached. Drifting Flowers edifices was hanging by a thread. Everyone sighed, feeling death closer than ever. Grandmother's eyes flashed with determination. Overseers, split into 5 teams and break out tonight. We will meet again at Flying Cloud City 1,000 miles away. Grandmother. I know this is dangerous, with a high chance of being wiped out, but it's better than sitting around for the axe to drop. We still have dozens of defenses in effect. They will never expect us to make such a risky move. Breaking through is our best bet. If we wait any longer, they'll raise their guard. Grandmother squinted. The others nodded. It was the most dangerous, yet most promising course of action. Waiting any longer would have even this chance robbed off of them. The overseers bowed. Understood, Grandmother. The moon hung high in the night sky, with a seldom cloud marring its glow every now and then. Outside Drifting Flowers City, the disciples of the three houses withdrew after a long day of work, leaving a few hundred guards. One overseer took its 1,000 disciples under the cover of the night outside the city. They moved fast, like panthers, and were upon the unsuspecting guards in seconds. Dash. The guard's cry was cut short at the swipe of a Drifting Flowers edifice's disciple's blade across his neck. His eyes were still wide as he hit the pool of blood on the ground. Drifting Flowers edifice's disciples split in teams of 3 to 5 members, robbing the lives of guards and ensuring the success of this mission. Slip-up was bound to happen at some point regardless. A guard threw a jade slip into the air. The jade slip exploded in a shower of light, revealing the shadows in its glaring display. The overseer shouted, "We've been spotted. Sisters, forget everything and just attack. Charge!" The 1,000 disciples rushed together towards the garrison of the three houses as they shouted. The house lords were out at the first sign of warning, guiding their disciples. Seeing it was just 1,000 people coming at them, they relaxed. That's it? These broads make a night raid with 1,000 warriors? That's not nearly enough to get us warmed up, ha ha ha, Lin Ruffin disdained. Yen Bagong nodded with a smile, true. With only some average overseers in the lead, what can they do even if they reach us? Since when did that Chu Bijuan shrew turn senile? You should send more people if you want to attack. These few are of no use. And what if they have different plans? I intend to capture an overseer and wring it out of her. This'll be some nice and easy merit. Yu Wanshan's eyes glinted. The other two nodded inside. Yu Wanshan sure makes sense. They both charged as well. With their level, this would be a walk in the park. Yu Wanshan snickered in the back, carefree. Bam! Lin Ruffing was the first to arrive with his uncanny speed. A single palm had the overseer flying and heavily wounded. Lin Ruffing snickered, glancing at Yen Bagong coming over with cocksure attitude, ha ha ha, it looks like the credit is all mine. Humph, of course it comes easy to you when you run faster than a hare. As for how much credit you get, it remains to be seen. Yen Bagong smiled. Lin Ruffing brushed his remark off, grabbing the woman, merit is merit either way. Ha ha ha, lass, why are you attacking at night? The overseer merely held her head high, watching the moon. Her 1,000 disciples were defeated as well, most dead, others captured, and very few escaped. Lin Rufeng's hand tightened and flooded her body with yuan qi. The woman's brow creased and sweated from the unimaginable pain, but she still didn't make a peep. Humph, you sure are tough. Chapter 433, Life in Desperation. Chapter 433, Life in Desperation. The sun's morning rays spilled on the land, dispelling the darkness and promising hope. In a gloomy ravine, grandmother took her group to a creek for a drop of water. They all looked weary and tired, with grandmother having it worse due to the poison. Grandmother, here's some water. One disciple showed consideration for her. Grandmother patted the child's head and looked to the east heartbroken. I heard from last night's 5 teams, Gelder Rose's team was spotted. For the sake of our journey to safety, they drew the enemy and must have died by now. I have let them down. Grandmother, Overseer Gelder Rose is like all of us, willing to lay down their life for Drifting Flowers edifices. She would never blame you. Peony Overseer appeased. Grandmother shook her head in tears. Whoosh! Iris Overseer flashed in front of them. Her face turned heavy looking around as she spoke. Grandmother, the way forward is blocked and they're now searching for us on their way over here. What? Grandmother cried and shook. If not for someone holding her steady, she would have collapsed by now. Did they foresee our plan to escape? How? Grandmother asked incredulously, who is coming after us? Iris Overseer replied, Grandmother, their group is made of youths led by Hell Valley's Grand Elder and Fifth Elder. Did Hell Valley guess our attempt to flee? Ever since Yu-Giki died, they've never had such guile. Shaking her head, Grandmother felt bitter regret festering inside. I've completely lost. Back in Drifting Flowers edifices, they could still hold on for a couple of months with their defenses, but here, turned into stragglers, they stood no chance against any group. Their escape was a bold gamble. Wynn and Drifting Flowers edifices would one day rise from the ashes. Lose and their deaths would be all the more tragic. It was quite obvious now what hand she had played. I have been far-sighted all my life only to make mistakes over and over at the end, ruining Drifting Flowers edifice's legacy. I am ashamed to meet my ancestors in the underworld. Grandmother cried. The others sighed as well, hanging their desolate faces. On a hill behind them, footsteps sounded that had everyone on edge. All the eyes looked over tense and frightened. Meanwhile, Hell Valley's army of thousands was combing through the area, zeroing in on Grandmother's location. Between Grand Elder and Fifth Elder was a man in gray, Yu Ming. Taking in the lush vegetation, Yu Ming's eyes flashed. Yu Ming, you've grown so much in skill over the years. I still can't believe that old hag would leave the city and its defenses and make for such a daring attempt. We never would have had such an easy time trapping so many of them if it weren't for you. I wonder how much merit will this get us? Ha ha ha, Grand Elder praised. Elder nodded, ha ha ha, Yu Ming is turning out to resemble the Seventh Elder more and more. No, I do not want to become my master. I want to surpass him. Yu Ming sighed, Grand Elder, has Grandmother been caught? Grand Elder shook his head, in their attempt to flee, we've captured 4 teams, but neither had that old hag among them. Perfect. Yu Ming nodded. He gave the signal to stop, peering at a hill in front of them, wait here while I look ahead. Yu Ming, why is it that you always go ahead? Are you trying to take all the credit? Fifth Elder asked. Yu Ming smiled, I am only an advisor, Fifth Elder. How can I take down thousands of people by myself and steal your credit? I only want to check for signs of them passing through here and their direction. With all of us going ahead, it will mask all the clues. Old Fifth, you're so petty. Grand Elder glared, Yu Ming earned the most merit in the first place with his plan. Why would he steal ours then? Chapter 434, Rescue and Attack. Chapter 434, Rescue and Attack. The women got startled thinking the enemy was upon them. But on a closer look, it was only Luo clan's power couple and thus they breathed easier. Bowing, Grandmother spoke, Elders, it's so good to see you in this hour of desperate need. Our houses are allies after all. It's only natural to help. Qiu Yanhai replied in kind then turned serious, Grandmother, there's something I don't understand. We've clearly given you ample warning about Regent Estate's assault yet why were you so passive? Grandmother and the overseers flushed, hanging their heads in shame. These elders are clearly hinting at our mistrust in the Luo clan. That we stalled making a decision for so long. That was like calling them petty and suspicious. But at least they did rescue them. With a cough, Grandmother fought through the awkwardness, to be honest, I've been in seclusion for so long and the information was left to the others. They were too shallow in their thinking and didn't take it seriously that the Regent Estate would attack. When I came out, I was beset with enemies at the gates and it was already too late. I am truly ashamed, hem. Grandmother coughed with a red face. It was a first for her to tell such an obvious lie in front of everyone and to shift the blame on her girls. It only made her more ashamed. What other choice was there? She couldn't just come clean and say it was an honest mistake on her part. It had cut away at the house's trust. With how they had turned into strays, they couldn't afford to push away Luo clan's help. Oh. I see. Qiu Yanhai and Xue Qingjian said, while beaming inside. Zhua Fan had called it ever since he got Drifting Flowers Edifice's call for help. And these two were obviously clued in as well. Just that, to complete Zhua Fan's master plan of adding Drifting Flowers Edifices to the Luo clan, these two had to rein in the teasing, lest they ruin the demonic Steward scheme. So they could only laugh inside, nodding at the hag's lame excuse. But they couldn't wipe that silly grin off their faces. Grandmother figured out on the spot that the two were in on her difficulties and turned away from those taunting stares. Humph, you don't know how to take help at face value, so you suspected our info? Hee hee hee, look who's down in the dumps now. Grandmother felt bitter inside. Peony Overseer was outraged. Since you knew about the attack on us for so long, why didn't you come help earlier? Were you waiting for us to be destroyed before acting? What kind of an ally are you? Girlie, we wouldn't be here in the first place otherwise. Qiu Yanhai was a radiant stage expert. He showed class to the women on behalf of Zhuofan, but would he let a profound heaven overseer just talk back to him? Grandmother mediated, Elder Qiu, please calm down. Peony is just so brash. Please don't mind her. Grandmother then chastised, Peony, Elder Qiu has come from afar to help us, so the least you could do is show some consideration. Apologize. Humph, screw apologies. If their rescue is real, why are there so few of them and without even Zhuofan? They have no intention to help us, clearly. Peony Overseer shouted. Qiu Yanhai snickered in rage, ignorant lass, what does a bunch of thoughtless broads like you know of Steward Zhuo's intricate planning? When he received your plea for help, Steward Zhuo knew you'd never look at him the same way for taking your Bodhi route or believe his messages. Steward Zhuo even warned us not to say this or it would break the ties between the houses. But you've given me no choice. Humph, does that give him the right to steal our precious treasure? Peony Overseer didn't back down even against a radiant stage expert. Grandmother kept on pulling her, but it was no use. These two are with Luo clan now, but they're still known as monsters in Tianyu. How could you irk them? Confronting them here was the dumbest thing one could do. Qiu Yanhai clenched his fists, you listen here girl, if not for Steward Zhuo, I would have snapped your neck for this gross lack of respect. Qiu Yanhai's savage aura exploded and sent shivers down everyone's spine. Grandmother paled, pulling Peony Overseer behind her and glaring at her to keep her trap shut. They had barely gotten out alive from one siege and were now about to find their end at their own allies' hands over a petty squabble. They are stronger than everyone here, yet you're still nagging? Grandmother sighed, feeling like giving Peony Overseer a good ass kicking. It's been so long yet your temper has never mellowed. We may even die from it. They all gulped with fear, watching Qiu Yanhai on edge. Xue Qingjian diffused the heavy mood with a smile, pulling Qiu Yanhai over, ha ha ha, we're all on the same side. Why must we bicker? Right, grandmother? Yes, Elder Xue is totally right. Grandmother was quick to grab the lifeline, bowing to Qiu Yanhai, Elder Qiu, forgive me. I have failed to teach her properly. It is all my fault and I ask that Elder Qiu restrain his anger. Grandmother's bow was real low, her Lady of Steel vibe gone, leaving her with no prestige. This scene dawned on every overseer that they were now homeless and had lost all their pride. Qiu Yanhai snorted. Xue Qingjian smiled, big lug, they've already apologized. Show some consideration. Humph. Qiu Yanhai flared his nose, his chin still way out. Xue Qingjian turned serious and kicked his ass, launching into a tirade, now you're ignoring me, is that it? I thought I told you to show some consideration. Qiu Yanhai's cocky attitude was gone, looking at Xue Qingjian like the victim. Then he waved it all off with a cough at grandmother, it's fine. I am not so petty, ahem. Perhaps it was all too awkward, but he coughed and raised his head again. Drifting Flowers Edifice's women were stunned, even grandmother. She snapped out of it with a thanks though while the women laughed inside. Ah, that explains it. The savage Elder Qiu is whipped. Xue Qingjian came to grandmother and Peony Overseer with a smile, don't mind him, his temper is always burning hot. It comes and goes just as fast. As for the Bodhi route, Steward Zhuo forbade us from mentioning it. You will have to ask him when you meet. I wouldn't dare. Grandmother shook her head, relieved. Xue Qingjian had her consideration in mind, guaranteeing Qiu Yanhai wouldn't mess with them later. The stress of having an 8th layer of radiant stage expert after you would give one nightmares. Also, Xue Qingjian said, after hearing your plea for help, Steward Zhua split his forces. While we were here as relief, he led an attack on Pil King Hall. Pil King Hall? Why? Peony Overseer became a sourpuss again. But a glare from grandmother shut her up. Qiu Yanhai mocked, that's why I said you are ignorant. In his infinite wisdom, Steward Zhua knew of your siege and was thinking about how to assist. He foresaw Sword Marquis' abode and Veiled Dragon Pavilion coming to help but getting pushed back with heavy losses. You thought Steward Zhua would lead his own people into a trap? I'll have you know that Steward Zhua is attacking Pil King Hall to get them to fall back. Reports on the attack on Pil King Hall should be coming in right about now, getting Regent Estate and the rest to come to its rescue. Wouldn't that relieve your city of the siege? We would then come in with our thousands of troops and coordinate with you in destroying them. A shame you couldn't even last that long. Drifting Flowers edifices, people felt like crying. Blast it! We got out too soon. We should have stayed put a few more days and the relief would have come, saving Drifting Flowers edifices. Grandmother felt sick to her stomach. It was a severe lapse in judgment. Only the power couple giggled inside at their mournful looks. Sigh, Drifting Flowers edifices almost got played to death, tossed between Steward Zhua and Regent Estate. But this is sure to guarantee their change of heart. He dropped to his knees then and there and begged, Estate Lord Huangpu, I beg of you, rescue Pil King Hall. What on earth has happened, Hall Lord Yan? Huangpu Tianyuan asked. Yan Bagong was erratic, Zijua Fan is laying waste to Pil King Hall. My house's legacy is about to be turned to dust. Please, Estate Lord, send aid. What? They couldn't believe their ears. Zhua Fan was now after Pil King Hall. Huangpu Tianyuan and Ling Wuchang looked shocked, but a glimmer of a smile was hidden in their eyes. Yuan Shan enjoyed how the tables had turned, laughing carefree, he, talk about righteous retribution. You! Yen Bugong's eyes went red. Who told him to look down on another man's misfortune? He had no way to retort and looked pleadingly at Huangpu Tianyuan, Estate Lord Huangpu, you must help me. The entire Pil King Hall will be eternally grateful. Stroking his chin, Huangpu Tianyuan turned to Ling Wuchang. Ling Wuchang had come prepared, putting on a heavy look, to match the mood. Zhua Fan is too vile and insidious. Going in without a plan will set us up for disaster, falling for his devious ploy. To the best of my knowledge, we should instead attack his allies to force him away. We will attack Veiled Dragon Pavilion and that will make him come to their rescue. Won't that relieve Pil King Hall? Zhua Fan would have given Ling Wuchang the biggest thumbs up if he was here. Nice, you took the words right out of my mouth. The two were in tune with each other on this, using each other's actions as an excuse to further their personal agenda. Besides, I'm providing relief, just not directly. I have my best insider working on it as we speak. So you can't fault me for being a bad ally. The result? The 8 noble houses were falling one by one, leaving Luo clan and Regent Estate the only ones left standing. The Exodus had no choice but to rely on them, boosting their power. In short, all of them would be laid to waste, with only these 2 masterminds making out alive like bandits. Yu Ming saw through it as well and sighed inside. Now, this is an overt plot. You may know every detail but would still be powerless to stop it. Each side has their own mastermind acting as coordinator and the houses are the fodder. Be it an ally or an enemy, all of you will end up getting chewed and spit out. Seeing Yuan Shan's condescending look for him, Yen Bagong sighed inside. He had finally figured out the difference between Yugiki, Ling Wuchang and Zhuge Changfeng. Skilled at working behind the scenes yet powerless in the face of an open scheme. Zhuge Changfeng, Zhua Fan, Ling Wuchang, the Emperor, all are true experts. Meanwhile, within 2 months, Xue Qingjian finally got the thousands of Drifting Flowers edifices women back to Windgaze City. Zhua Fan had long since come out to welcome them, of course. Grandmother, as I live and breathe. I welcome you. Zhua Fan spoke with hands behind his back. Grandmother bowed from dozens of meters away. I thank you, Steward Zhua, for the assistance in Drifting Flowers Edifice's hour of need, for taking the time to come see us in person. I can't say how honored I am. How can you say that, grandmother? We are allies. Of course I'd help you. It must be that grandmother must still be hurting for what I did back then. Zhua Fan sighed. It is all my fault for betraying your trust and for your suffering now. The more Zhua Fan showed his remorse, the more guilty she felt. She had been suspicious of him from the first message that arrived and still blamed it on him, leaving her with an even worse feeling of making the wrong accusations. Peony Overseer had no such qualms. Talk then, why did you steal our heirloom? Peony. Grandmother glared. Zhua Fan waved. I admit, it was wrong stealing from you. I have no excuse. For that, I have let everyone down when you needed me the most. I didn't wish for this to happen. There's no need for excuses. Steward Zhua, you have done nothing wrong. Xue Qingjian intervened. Did you know that Regent Estate had young Miss and young Master in their clutches, forcing Steward Zhua to commit such a vile act? What would you have done, grandmother? Elder Xue, you're out of line. Zhua Fan berated. But Drifting Flowers Edifices got the full picture. That the bastards from Regent Estate had pushed him. Chapter 436, Refining a War Puppet. Chapter 436, Refining a War Puppet. That devious Regent Estate, and Leng Wuchang, that snake. Grandmother gnashed her teeth. Zhua Fan sighed. Grandmother need not say that. They're not that vile. It was me who betrayed you despite our ties. It is all on me. The only one you can take it out on is also me. A man has to do what a man must. I can take it. Oh, no, Steward Zhua, I am not so unwise as to take it out on you. I could never blame you now that I know the source of our misfortune. Elder Xue is right. Anyone would have done it if it were them, including me. It is not within my right to judge you, Steward Zhua. The more Zhua Fan gave his head on a platter, the more he made grandmother feel bad, riddling her with guilt and shame. She ended up cursing Regent Estate some more. That wretched and vile and degenerate Regent Estate wanted to incite discord among us. Leng Wuchang is even worse. I bet he came up with that despicable plan. He stands back while Regent Estate is put to work, forcing you into driving a wedge between us. Alas, I did fall for their ploy, doubting Luo clan and resulting in today's calamity. This is all my fault. Grandmother cried again. Zhua Fan blinked. Whether Leng Wuchang aimed for this when forcing him to get the Bodhi root, he didn't know. But one thing he was certain of, Regent Estate was packed with experts, while Drifting Flowers Edifice's women are impulsive. Not to sound narcissistic, but the task of stealing their great treasure could and would only be done by yours truly. No one else had the skills nor the expertise to pull off such a heist. Yet grandmother was here denouncing Regent Estate and he couldn't agree more. Zhua Fan patted her shoulder. Grandmother, now you know that it was all a trick. We must now stand more united than ever, to have nothing come between us again. Yes, Steward Zhua, Drifting Flowers Edifices is now at its weakest and we will do everything you ask of us, for vengeance and rebuilding Drifting Flowers Edifices. Grandmother nodded with conviction. Zhua Fan did the same. You honor me with your deep sense of duty. I will never let you down. I noticed you are poisoned with the rainbow cloud palm. I will have someone give you the antidote. Thank you, Steward Zhua. Grandmother bowed again and the disciples helped her into the city. Zhua Fan watched her go. Drifting Flowers Edifices, every member passed by him with apologies. At Peony Overseer's turn, she dodged his gaze and was no longer as fiery. Well, I'll be honest. Steward Zhua, you sure know how to turn excuses into a high-class act. We could have just told them when we first met. Why drag it all out till now? I felt my ears explode hearing that Peony nag us on and on. With the coast clear, Xue Qingjian looked at him puzzled. Zhuo Fan sighed, these ladies have just experienced a change of heart. And supplied with, Elder Shui, do you know the difference between fetching and sending? Shui Qingjian shook her head. Ha ha ha, like they say, easy come easy go. When someone gives you something, you don't give it much value. If you had used the same excuse from the start, no matter how good, they still wouldn't believe you. Only through their constant inquiry, forcing me to say it, did they take it as truth. And another thing, these excuses cannot come out from me. It has to be from a third party. That's why, Elder Shui, thank you for your hard work along the way. Your ears must be in agony, ha ha ha. Zhuo Fan laughed, drifting flowers edifices are in ruins and my helping hand will be seen as God sent. Now that all doubts are cleared as well, they will trust no one more than me. This trust will also affect the incoming houses as well, making the reform of the 3 houses a done deal. Elder Shui, Regent Estate must be getting for Veiled Dragon Pavilion and Sword Marquis abode now. Send them a word. Zhuo Fan said, the signs of conflict and chaos have appeared, and I can't stop it. All I can do is stave off the anarchy at my gates. Elder Shui, you will learn in due time. What I have in store for them is for their own good. While I want them integrated and re-educated, everyone else would have them purged. Shui Qingjian just bobbed her clueless head. You're telling me it's common sense to thank the guy for wrecking your 1,000-year-old legacy? It makes total sense. The vile and deceitful steward Zhuo sure acts quite a nobleman. Shui Qingjian didn't understand, and it wasn't like Zhuo Fan wanted her to. How is it going on Elder Chou's end? Per your orders, I escorted Drifting Flowers Edifice's disciples while the old guy is waiting for Regent Estate to vacate their city before they'll desecrate Drifting Flowers Edifice's ancestors and fetch you those bodies. Marvelous. Zhuo Fan nodded, flying towards Blackwind Mountain, leaving a few more words. Elder Li and Elder Yen have gone to take care of Pill King Hall. Wait for Elder Chiu to return and you two can go deal with Mary Woods. Yes. Shui Qingjian bowed. Zhuo Fan was back in the bunker, sending the Luo clan members and Yun clan people away. Rows upon rows of pits lined up in his sight according to the Taiji diagram. Each pit held 2 bodies in the middle, with spirit stones all around them. One looked haggard, but desecrated, while the other was dried up and human-like yet did not have the feel of one, the human pillars. On either side of them were countless materials and a pair of spiritual beast wings. Besides this one, there were tens of thousands of pits just like it. But only a few pits had bodies in them. Petting the human pillar's head, Zhuo Fan's eyes glinted. Around 10 years ago, I had Captain Pang train you. But you failed and turned cripple. I had Miss Lei teach you myriad breaths, while she called me a cruel monster knowing what it did. But I believe letting you live your lives as cripples was the ultimate cruelty. That's why I told her that even if you live a life worse than death, I'd still have use of you. That time has come. You won't be the strongest, but will reach your peak all based on your talent. You will make the Empire see that you are no cripples, but great warriors. Waves came from the human pillars, something Zhuo Fan picked up on only after he made certain signs. What's with the can I move questions? Ha ha ha, you will do more than that, more than your wildest dreams. You will become the Luo clan's strongest guards, Luo clan's pride and honor. Another wave of ripples told Zhuo Fan of their joy. He was no goody two-shoes and planned on refining war puppets, devastating weapons of war. He'd use those ancestors and refine them with countless materials to make them as tough as diamonds. As for the souls to operate them, that was where these loyal human pillars of the Luo clan came in. Because they were dead to begin with, even with the human pillars controlling them, they wouldn't be able to cultivate and were thus dubbed human weapons. It was the only way to describe a cultivator who hadn't achieved his potential. But they were more than enough for a weak empire like Tianyu. Due to material limitations, he planned to make 1,000 of them to start with while letting nature take its course with the rest of the human pillars. But thanks to Kunpeng's hefty endorsement, he hoped to provide these children, who sacrificed themselves for Luo clan's intelligence network, a body they could move in. It was the best reward for their dedication and devotion. 1,000 war puppets were tough enough to fight the imperial family. But by the looks of things, that number was quickly gaining 2 more zeros. He could go toe-to-toe with Dugu Zhantian's 3 million army if this kept up. Ghastly black winds rose on Blackwind Mountain, kicking up a storm and swallowing everything. Windgaze City was on the verge of being swept up in it. Grandmother and the rest, having just found peace, were now panicking and were at a loss. When the world experienced change, someone was going against natural order, bringing about heavenly tribulation. Just what was about to happen that would bring about destruction upon the living? Chapter 437, Road Pass. Chapter 437, Road Pass. SSS. Lightning snaked all over the corpses as the materials and the wings shone. They liquefied and entered the body, fusing together. It went just like what Zhuo Fan had been through the first time, but way easier. Unlike the live refining he underwent, this time it was done on cold dead corpses, unfeeling and uncaring about some trifling stuff like a destroyed soul. So, Zhuo Fan went big this time, 1,000 of them at the same time. With the job done, the bodies had a metallic sheen to them. Zhuo Fan made a sign, change places and let the souls return. Bang! The human pillars exploded into a shower of blood and viscera. As the gruesome display splashed the ground with a sickening sound, it left behind faint flames of a spectral green glow. Zhuo Fan made another sign and the flames entered the corpses. The corpses rattled and their eyelids shivered. Zhuo Fan went through another sign and the corpses opened their mouths, while he sent a pill in. Fuse and let spirits assume their rightful place. Another sign and the rumbling continued constantly as the sky had a hole in it, spewing out a lightning shower. The mountains shook and Blackwind Mountain's arrays were close to crumbling. Windgaze City's people paled, taking this unnatural phenomenon as the end of days coming to take everything they knew. Zhuo Fan shook with the earth, knowing this was heaven's way in showing its wrath, tribulation. Any items this world did not condone incited the heavenly tribulation to have them all purged, disintegrated, to guard all living things from destruction, decreed by the world's Tao. Zhuo Fan, while refining war puppets, was doing just that, going against heaven and bringing down the fury of the world on his head. But he had put too much work in this for a puny heavenly tribulation to come ruin it all. Since he was fully intent on refining the war puppets, he had a way to keep the war puppets alive, so to speak. The snap of his fingers echoed out. The 4 arrays started up and spewed out pitch-black mist all around Windgaze City. The black mist wiggled and spun, swallowing all lightning strikes. Shroud the heavens eye, the sun and the moon, 10th grade array, hidden shadow dragon. With a whistle, the black mist swept over the war puppets, covering them completely. When the Black Sea passed, Zhuo Fan saw flat ground, with all the war puppets gone from the bunker and his sight. The rumbling in the heavens was on hold, having lost its target. The black clouds scattered, having nothing better to do. The land no longer shook and Windgaze City returned to normalcy. But what had just transpired had every one of its citizens filled with a bad feeling. Sighing, Zhuo Fan wiped his brow, overjoyed. At least he had the foresight to use the new authority of the Luo House and mine his domain, gathering the spirit stones needed to set the 10th grade array up. Everything would have been wasted otherwise, with even his home base laid to ruins under heaven's tantrum. Heaven was quite generous though. It would strike down with unbridled fury and unmatched force when anything foreign was taking shape, but will leave you be, once it was done shaping up. Through the hidden shadow dragon, Zhuo Fan hid the war puppets until the fusing finished. Then he'd have nothing to worry about. The world shall soon follow, with 100,000 puppets sweeping the lands in every direction. Ahahaha. Zhuo Fan looked around the bunker one last time before leaving. Only the world's odd phenomenon had left a mark on its people, yet they had no way of unraveling the mystery. This event was the start of a quirky habit, happening every other month. With Zhuo Fan keeping mum about it, none was the wiser and everyone became more puzzled than ever. It was like the world's ant flow was doing its thing. Then please return to his side. We and Zhuge Changfeng have an understanding in place, but when it comes to that old fox, we still need assurances and need to prepare a plan B. As we are about to go to war with Luo clan, there's nothing I would hate more than to have the imperial family stick its nose in it. Yu Ming squinted, and grinned, ha ha ha, you are just like Zhuofan. Pausing, Leng Wuchang looked at him, ha ha ha, I see. So he gave you a road pass as well. This way is much better. He, I am as guilty as you are righteous. Making this war fair and square. As for the imperial family throwing its hooks in, humph, his backyard won't be so quiet for long. With a twisted smile, Zhuofan looked in the imperial capital's direction, confident in his contingencies. Anywho, in the imperial palace, the emperor in his throne had a shifty look in his eyes now and then. Marshal Dugu, it's time. Order me, your majesty. Dugu Zhantian bowed. The emperor said, Marshal Dugu, with purging traitors as the reason, assemble 1,000,000 men. I'm sure you know what to do next. I understand. Sighing inside, Dugu Zhantian shook his head in defeat. The emperor wanted him to root out all traitors. As for who these were, he didn't say. It was the same as asking to kill them all. And the emperor was sure to have their list of crimes ready to publicize any time. But to go to war against his godson was something this Marshal found toiling. But the emperor had given his order and he had to obey. Your Majesty, my departure will bring great chaos in the imperial capital. I fear. It's fine. Dugu Zhantian was wrecked with worry, but the emperor cut him off. I have made plans for this eventuality. Marshal can go with ease. This plan will settle Tianyu's critical situation. No mistakes are allowed. Understood. Dugu Zhantian bowed and left the palace. The emperor was struck with grief seeing him go. Marshal, for the good of the nation, I can only be ruthless. Days later, news of Dugu Zhantian's army being on the move spread to every ear. Zhuofan and Huangpu Tianyuan snickered. Only the prime minister was frowning. Obscure wolf slipped before him once again, excited, Prime Minister Zhuge, even Dugu Zhantian has left the emperor's side. This is our best chance so far. We wait. Zhuge Changfeng's brow was locked in a tight scowl. Hu Lianchai grew unsettled. Prime Minister sir, all of the emperor's loyal subjects are gone. He is defenseless. If we wait for him to settle all conflicts, in and out of court, it'll be too late. The garrison has been putting pressure on us to leave since a few days ago as well. We can't wait much longer. Sighing, Zhuge Changfeng's mind was a mess. Finally he spoke, we wait. For what? Prime Minister sir, what's holding you back? Hu Lianchai was angry now. The Chuanlong's finest weren't here on a sightseeing trip. Going around the place doing nothing all the time would end up being the shame of their army back home. But this was all on the Prime Minister. Flicking his sleeve, Hu Lianchai was gone, leaving Zhuge Changfeng alone with his jumbled thoughts. Whoosh! His two elders appeared at his sides, bowing, Lord Prime Minister, what plagues you? Of the 5 divine dragons, we've only ever seen 3. Now who do you think the other 2 are? Zhuge Changfeng said. The Yin-Yang elders understood his plight and said, Lord Prime Minister, you've held back all this time because of these 2 divine dragons? Know yourself and your enemy and you will be ever victorious. Even against divine dragons. If I do not know who they are, our impetuous action will be the death of us. Black Elder said, Lord Prime Minister, I have a conjecture but find it inappropriate. A man of your power has traveled far and knows much. No matter what happens in Tianyu, however people hide themselves, nothing comes as a surprise to you. Yet we have no information on these 2 divine dragons. They may not even exist, made up by the imperial family as a bluff. SSS. Zhuge Changfeng gasped, you mean to say the old man has been using the empty city tactic? This is one dangerous bet. He would rather send everyone to deal with Regent Estate and Zhuofan, and only then settle the court. That would mean not acting now will be a waste. But what if it's all a trap and everything we've worked for would go down the drain? That old coot's scheme is brilliant. I am truly in a dilemma. Zhuge Changfeng sighed, but his gaze steeled. Send the order to get ready. Second Prince was pacing in his new manner, excited and worried. Whoosh! A second later he found himself looking at a gray robe and said, Sir Yuming, you're back at last. The situation. I know. Yuming had a crafty smile. Your Highness, this is your moment. Truly? Second Prince beamed, too excited to speak. Zhuge Changfeng laughed. There's no need to feel shame when they aren't even your men. Our men are still waiting outside. Just let these brutes search all they want, then we'll decide on our course of action. Zhuge Changfeng's eyes flashed. The Minister of War showed a crafty grin in reply, nodded and sat down. Chapter 440, Oriole Behind. Chapter 440, Oriole Behind. Bam! The clash rattled the men, making both sides drop their weapons in favor of covering their ears. The two experts separated and the Radiant Stage expert fell back to the Second Prince's side. The other was next to the Emperor, followed by 7 more, the remaining Radiant Stage guards in the Imperial Palace. Yongning scrambled over, ranting, Second brother, how can a prince stoop to such disgraceful acts as to take up arms and revolt? Stop this right now and ask Imperial Father for forgiveness. Shut up, Yongning, this has nothing to do with you. Second Prince never spared her a glance, only glaring at the Emperor. Imperial Father, ever since the fiasco with Zhuofan, your Radiant Stage guards are heavily wounded. You have no chance. I do not wish for patricide, to be labeled a king slayer by the people. I advise you to abdicate. The Emperor mocked, Son, the throne has always been acquired through succession or war. I'll be honest with you. I never cared much for you, nor did I plan on making you the next in line. If you want my throne, you will just have to take it from my hands. The Emperor raised his palm, although empty, it carried all the imperial power he mustered as he taunted, if you can that is. Second Prince gnashed his teeth, his nails digging into his palms and spoke in a tragic tone, Imperial Father, finally you've come clean. You never tried to groom me into an emperor, casting me aside from the beginning. Then all I can say is that today, the throne will be mine. Don't blame me, Father, as I'm about to break our ties. Second Prince almost roared, his eyes bloodshot. The Emperor, though, just looked back coldly. Second Prince's heart was struck with dolor. He sensed that his beloved Imperial Father never even considered him as his son, fueling his burning rage. Kill. Leave none alive. Get the Jade Seal. I'll draft the order myself. Understood. The men shouted, storming the palace. The 10 Radiant Stage experts moved as well. With only 8 experts on the Emperor's side and no divine dragons around, they held the advantage. The Emperor would soon lay in chains and the coup would be victorious. The Radiant Stage experts were giddy at the prospects. They would become the new Emperor's loyal officials, blessed with riches and resources. The Emperor's Radiant Stage guards were getting graver by the second, finding themselves outnumbered and unfit to protect the Emperor. Yongning cried, Father, look out. The Emperor still bore the same calculative look, standing firm and unflinching. His eyes flashed at the incoming enemy. Where are the shadow guards? Who? Black streaks flew from around the Emperor with eerie cackles. They moved onto the Radiant Stage experts like black clouds, in the hundreds. All experts kept calm and retaliated. But their attacks went right through the shadows, having no effect at all. While the shadow guards relied on their strong souls and couldn't enjoy tearing into the enemy, they could at least mess with their minds and unnerve them. There was hardly a Radiant Stage expert among the shadow guards, but thanks to their creepy methods and their numbers, the enemy had no counter to their harassment. The Emperor's Radiant Stage guards were filled with bloodlust. With the shadow guards keeping the experts busy, the guards would rob their lives. They moved fast, jumped up in the air and came down under the cover of the shadows with a heavy palm attack. Ugh! Second Prince's experts drew a trail of blood as they crossed the sky. As for the city guards, they were pushed back in but few moves from the Radiant Stage Imperial Guards. Second Prince's experts could do nothing but lay there wounded. Watching their brothers breathe their last, the city guards' metal cracked and shuddered back. Which led to an accord to the face-off here, at Troubled Falcon's Gully, in a head-on and above-board manner. On the Luo clan's corner, besides Zhuo Fan and his Radiant Stage Elders, there were experts from his 3 allies present as well. Each of them glared at Regent Estate with rage and malice for destroying their homes, hatred consuming them. Regent Estate's side was no different. Its allies mirrored the enemy's thirst for blood and deep rancor. It was by Zhuo Fan's grace that their homes were in an even sorrier sight. The desecration of their ancestors tended to bring out the worst in people. Who knew? Their hatred for Zhuo Fan went beyond bone deep at this point, it was in their DNA. They wished for nothing more than to put Zhuo Fan into a press and squeeze him for all the blood he had. Yet all they've been doing these past weeks was measuring egos by means of glares, with neither wanting to take the first step down this bloody war. It had the added effect of fermenting each side's hatred and testing their ever-thinning patience. That was the only thing they could do, as each side's allies were either under direct orders from Zhuo Fan or Regent Estate. With no right to complain, they just had to wait and wait some more. Steward Zhuo, we've been staring at each other for weeks. When do you plan to attack? Grandmother found the limit of her patience once more and came to urge Zhuo Fan, as she had done many times till now. The other houses nodded. Zhuo Fan was laid back per usual, in his comfy deck chair, his lazy eyes closed and his voice drawn out, easy, we're still waiting for the right timing. Still? Until when do we wait, until we become statues of liberty? Peony Overseer snapped. Zhuo Fan swayed in his chair. The same thing was going on at Regent Estate's corner. Yuan Shan and company were boiling, but Huangpu Tianyuan and Ling Wuchang reined them in. They were all a powder keg of emotions with nowhere to vent. Whoosh! 2 jade slips arrived at the camps. Zhuo Fan skimmed over it as Ling Wuchang did the same. The two were miles from each other, yet reacted at the same time and in the same manner. Ha ha ha, at last there's movement. What do you mean? Grandmother asked. Snickering, Zhuo Fan shot to his feet and barked, notify the elders. We attack at once. What? They were all baffled. He just asked us to wait and the next second he is asking us to attack. Just what on earth happened? Nonetheless, they all began war preparations, eager to get the show on the road and the blood flowing. In quick order, rows of experts rolled out into the valley like a black cloud, glaring at the hill 1,000 meters in the distance. Huangpu Tianyuan and Ling Wuchang brought out their army as well. Zhuo Fan, Huangpu Tianyuan and Ling Wuchang's eyes met and they burst out laughing. We finally get to see today, when I can tear you to shreds, all to my heart's content. Zhuo Fan, it's high time you paid for taking away my son. Huangpu Tianyuan roared, to which Zhuo Fan only had derision. Huangpu Tianyuan, let's see you try. Ling Wuchang fanned himself with a smile, Estate Lord, Steward Zhuo, we are all bitter enemies here, with each side wishing to destroy the other. Just that there were so many interferences along the way. This is a rare occasion, with Second Prince's rebellion igniting the chaos yet Dugu army still marching towards us. It won't be long before Prime Minister Zhuge acts as well and gets him to turn back. That only leaves the two of us, to tear into each other with a bright smile on our faces. Isn't it great? So why waste time with pointless chatter? We need to settle our grudges with speed and force, giving time for the winner to take the nation. As for the loser, it will become a stepping stone with no regrets. No regrets indeed. Zhuo Fan beamed, I never pegged Sir Leng to be such a bold man. All words now are useless. Everyone has come prepared, so what are we waiting for? Let's do some killing. No matter what hatred we had before, this battle is all that's important, whoever stands tall in the end. What do you say, Estate Lord Huangpu? Huangpu Tianyuan beamed as well, ha ha ha, rightly said indeed. Hatred aside, in the race for power the weak gets eaten. Why would the king of the world ever care about some petty squabbles? Zhuo Fan, you are a man of ambition. For me to fight you today, with the world at stake, it is an honor. The revenge for my son no longer matters. Why would a man with his eyes on the world ever mind such trifles? Then, Estate Lord Huangpu, shall we? Zhuo Fan snickered. Huangpu Tianyuan had the same twisted smile as both of them roared, to war. Zhuo Fan had a knowing smile, tracing two fingers on his neck as a taunt. Huangpu Tianyuan turned to look at the fight above. Humph, Zhuo Fan, be smug all you want. I may not have taken you out when I should, but your time will come soon, very soon. You aren't invincible. You have yet to taste my 9 dragons' diamond body, humph. Bang! The body cultivators in the sky had similar styles, unleashing one overpowered attack after another. It took but a second to exchange 10 moves. With no clear winner in sight. Chapter 444, A Martial Fanatic's Honor. Chapter 444, A Martial Fanatic's Honor. A dreadful wave shot from Li Jingtian's fingers. His face went purple, blood leaked from his mouth and the veins in his arms pulsed, ready to burst. Yet none of that could wipe the excitement off his face, releasing every ounce of power he had. That's the profound ranked martial art, Finger of Death. Sensing the energy, Qiu Yanhai cried, ever since Steward Zhuo has taught it to us, we haven't had much time to practice it. Yet this geezer has already mastered it. He really is the Mad Dipper. Xue Qingjian nodded in praise. Only Zhuo Fan sighed. Huangpu Fenglei, try this on for size. Despite sucking all of his yuan qi, the move launched quickly, leaving Li Jingtian's finger at his shout. Whoosh! With a series of bangs, something unseen came out of his fingers and went straight for his target. The roaming dragon was outraged. It grew dozens of times in size and retaliated. Its power as if coming from heavens themselves pressed on the house lords with such might, fear festered in their hearts. Huangpu Fenglei, wrapped in his pillar of light, showed shock at Li Jingtian hiding such a killer move. The power of that soul attack went beyond Radiant Stage and not even with the help of Imperial Tyrant Body Art's 10th stage could he fend it off. Huangpu Fenglei was sweating, his big eyes taking on a heavy gaze. Qiu Yanhai and Xue Qingjian were panicking, Steward Zhuo, that's combination art. Zhuo Fan shook his head. The two were even more nervous now, but he's just one man. How can he perform combination art? Elderly may very well be the only one who can. Zhuo Fan sighed, Necro Dragon's Screech and Finger of Death are soul-profound ranked martial arts and can be combined. But to do that, both have to be executed in tandem, intrinsically at the same time. Even you two will find it hard to achieve it. But with Elderly knowing both of them, combining them is not the issue here. Zhuo Fan's frown deepened, gazing at the aged figure above. Different martial arts imply that yuan qi takes different paths through one's meridians. When you launch an attack, there's always a pause before the next. Elderly, I'm afraid, pulled out all the stops, unleashing the arts at almost the exact same time. This translates into broken meridians from the clashing flows of yuan qi and you'll be crippled. Elderly may have achieved it, but his body is finished. What, Elderly? The couple's faces fell, turning to Li Jingtian. His power was plunging after unleashing the two arts. Elderly, why did you have to go so far? Huangpu Fenglei is strong, but not invincible. There's no hatred between you two, so why must you pay the ultimate price? Zhuo Fan and the power couple were vexed. This is no kill or be killed situation. Xie Tianshang whipped out his sword, coming before them and smiled at the figure above. Zhuo Fan, you do not understand a martial fanatic's heart. If you do not surpass an opponent you recognize, it will leave one with regrets. Today is when these two sides will settle their differences once and for all. If we fail, we will die. If we win, we will kill them. With your strength, Huangpu Fenglei will most likely die at your hands, something elderly can't stop. It means that this is his last chance to fight his enemy. He must defeat his opponent by any means necessary. This is a martial fanatic's will and glory. Spoken like a true martial fanatic. The people watched elderly pant, as blood kept pouring out of him. But his eyes were full of joy, his smile wide. It's so hard to understand the mind of a martial fanatic. The way I see it, winning is everything. But to win at the cost of your own life is highly inadvisable. Zhuo Fan shook his head, but smiled. Get ready, it's our turn soon. The rest had fire burning in their eyes. Chapter 447, Stompya. Chapter 447, Stompya. Divine Eye of the Void's first stage, Shift. Whoosh! Zhuo Fan appeared 100 meters away just as Huangpu Tianyuan chomped down with another resounding snap. The tails swept in tandem, cutting the air with such force, a shockwave flew at a lonely hill a kilometer away, whipping it out of existence. The people tensed up at the overbearing display of power. The slightest twitch from that tail will have any one of us gone from this world, just like that hill. Zhuo Fan's eyes were fixed on the ghastly creature, rejoicing at his timely escape. He had Divine Eye of the Void to thank for the lucky break. Alert as he was against Nine Dragon's diamond body, facing it was still deadly. The earlier display was enough to make his skin crawl. That's what got him so confident that he can handle me and Gu Santong once he got the Bodhi root. Zhuo Fan settled his frantic heart with a long breath. Crack! Turning his head, Huangpu Tianyuan's neck let out snapping sounds, mocking, almost forgot you have that as well. You're fast, sure, but are you faster than me? Huangpu Tianyuan flicked his tail and was on Zhuo Fan in a blink. Zhuo Fan saw two claws going for his head and the steel tail coming at him again. Zhuo Fan's eye flashed golden again and he was gone. But just as he appeared, Huangpu Tianyuan flicked his tail to be in his face moments later. While Zhuo Fan was popping all over, Huangpu Tianyuan was with him every step of the way, leaving no room to even breathe. Everyone was a bundle of nerves watching them go. It was a first to see the ever-cocky Zhuo Fan being on the run, taking with him the confidence they had in winning this war. With Zhuo Fan on the run, who else was left to deal with Huangpu Tianyuan? Zhuo Fan was overwhelmed as well. No matter where he went, the guy was there to welcome him, putting the squeeze on him more and more. It worked to show that his Divine Eye of the Void had room for improvement, his training lacking. Yuan Shan and the others were overjoyed, grinning from ear to ear. Who? Two blue wings sprouted from Zhuo Fan's back, sea phantom wings. Their bluish glow spread and Huangpu Tianyuan felt his mind slowing down, his view becoming hazy. But as he had trained in Nine Dragon's diamond body, he was a peak radiant stage expert and had the soul to fight back the illusion. But it proved to be a delay enough for experts of Zhuo Fan's caliber. This is my chance. Zhuo Fan used this gap to use his red right arm to punch. Bam! Huangpu Tianyuan was blown away. Zhuo Fan's mouth curled up, but then his face froze and trembled, and no way. The mighty Qilin arm actually. Rumble. Huangpu Tianyuan tumbled in the air a few times before getting upright again. He looked at his chest and grinned. There was a faint imprint there, but nothing he couldn't handle. Hi, Zhuo Fan, is that all you could muster after finally catching me open? Humph, that barely even tickled. Huangpu Tianyuan cackled, with his allies tooting their horns in tandem. drifting flowers edifices and the rest were only getting glum. Huangpu Tianyuan was like an unbreakable monster, robbing them of any chance at victory, even if they got lucky enough to take a shot at him. Since besides luck, one had to target his weakness, scoring them the win. But Huangpu Tianyuan didn't have any weaknesses. Zhou Fan's side was in the pits of despair. Shadow King, Sima Hui and Fang Qiubai, the innocent bystanders close by, were speechless. We all sensed Huangpu Tianyuan was reborn, but never imagined he'd train in Nine Dragons' diamond body. Zhou Fan can't do anything. Shadow King sighed, if this keeps up, it'll be Regent Estate's victory. And Huangpu Tianyuan becomes our greatest threat. Sima Hui sighed, we would have lent the Luo clan a hand earlier if we had known. But now Huangpu Tianyuan has an overwhelming position and this will only make dealing with him harder. The others nodded and Fang Qiubai said, Gu Santong may be the only one who can fight him. But ever since he went after Zhou Fan, the bugger has gone missing. Maybe Zhou Fan finished him off. Shadow King snorted, the kid is tough, but a child at heart. With Zhou Fan's schemes, even being weaker he'd have supreme advantage. It'd be simple to kill him in some way or another. Without Gu Santong, how are we supposed to deal with Huangpu Tianyuan? We were supposed to work with Huangpu Tianyuan to nab Zhou Fan, and then get him later. But now, even if we team up with Zhou Fan, the Nine Dragons' diamond body isn't easy to surmount. All we can do is watch. His Majesty's plan already has deviations. Sima Hui sighed. Shadow King nodded, don't be so sure. We still have 2 more people. Who? Sima Hui asked. Shadow King's eyes flashed in anger, His Majesty's 5 divine dragons are real and he does have 2 experts back in the imperial capital. They were tasked to constrict Gu Santong, but by the looks of things, they'll be going against 9 dragons' diamond body. What? The 2 cried. These 2 divine dragons were in the dark about this, while Shadow King knew them quite well judging by his tone. Shadow King smiled at their bewilderment and recalled out loud, they're old friends of mine, in a way, and more than worthy to be called divine dragons. It's natural to not know about them since you came later. Wouldn't you have been quicker to leave His Majesty's side otherwise, knowing he'd be defenseless? The 2 exclaimed. It's all part of His Majesty's plan. But they've been by his side for so many years yet the Emperor not once let it slip about the extra 2 divine dragons. It went to show how uneasy he felt about them. The 2 sighed, souring inside. Back to Zhou Fan, he glared at his enemy, plans running wild in that head of his. His right arm shone brighter. He, still won't give up. Stop wasting time, I am invincible. You can struggle all you want but your destiny is to lie dead at my feet. Zhou Fan, there's no getting out of this one. Huangpu Tianyuan's eyes flashed with savagery. Zhou Fan snickered, flicking his shining red arm, who can tell? Since my punch does nothing, I'll just have to stomp ya. Stomp? Huangpu Tianyuan glanced at his legs in derision, you only have powerful arms. You think your puny legs can do what your arms can't? We won't know until we try, humph, Zhou Fan's twisted smile came. Huangpu Tianyuan's common sense was tingling, but seeing how Zhou Fan's latest tricks were for naught, he had stopped paying it any attention. No matter how sly and slippery Zhou Fan was, in the face of true power, it was all moot. Huangpu Tianyuan swished his tail and shot for Zhou Fan. The latter used shift to pop 100 meters above. Huangpu Tianyuan flicked his tail to go after him, just as Zhou Fan's mouth curled into a creepy smile, his red right arm smashing down at him. Huangpu Tianyuan scoffed, using an earth dragon claw to block. On contact, the red fist exploded in size, changing its shape from a fist into a spiritual beast's hoof. In the face of the rippling winds, the ridiculous power and boundless might, Huangpu Tianyuan knew he had fallen for it good. With Zhou Fan coming from above and him from below, it was far too late to dodge. The red hoof even brought along a sense of danger. He hated himself for not keeping his guard up around this punk. Zhuo Fan was laughing. Huangpu Tianyuan, I'll trample those old bones of yours. Tangible projection, soaring Qilin leg. My 9 Dragons diamond body has reached this step with the help of Bodhi root. It's not just tough, but unbreakable. Huangpu Tianyuan made a sign and barked, 9 Dragons diamond body, 8th Dragon's soul transformation, returning Dragon's roar. Roar! Under the shocked looks of everyone, a green dragon's soul shot out of his body and roared as it circled above him. Green lights fell upon him, healing him to perfection, not even leaving a scar as the scales knit back together. When the dragon's soul returned back inside, he was now the very picture of health. Zhuo Fan's eyes trembled in shock. The ascending dragon fused with the Bodhi root, and gets this bastard back to full health every time he's damaged. Adding that tough body into the mix and you'd have an indestructible killing machine. Zhuo Fan frowned. Shadow King's side was keyed up. Huangpu Tianyuan's outrageous power blew their minds. How were they going to beat that? Even if Gu Santong steps in, not even he can do anything. With this old monster healing back whenever, no one can beat him. Fong Qiubai shook his head. What about the other 2 divine dragons, can they do it? Shadow King said, all I know is that they can handle Gu Santong, but cannot kill him. I reckon Huangpu Tianyuan falls in the same category. As long as there's a way, we'll just think about killing him later. Sima Hui muttered. Huangpu Tianyuan stretched his limbs in taunt to Zhuo Fan above, yet the man was calm and cool. Zhuo Fan's eyes flashed and he punched with his right arm again. Since I have no way to finish him off yet, I'll stall him. Torturing him is better than nothing. And who knows, maybe a way to kill him will come out of it. Classic delaying tactic. First bind the enemy, then get some time to think. It was such an obvious choice that even Huangpu Tianyuan could see it. So he retaliated with a flick of his tail and jumped out. Boom! Zhuo Fan's leg smashed the ground, but not Huangpu Tianyuan. Frowning, Zhuo Fan sighed inside. And of course it never goes as planned. He only got Huangpu Tianyuan the first time because of how close they were and having the element of surprise. But Huangpu Tianyuan was a fast learner. He had to keep some distance and that speed of his was enough to stay clear. What was even worse was that Huangpu Tianyuan wasn't a cocky old coot like he acted, but was cautious instead. The worst enemy was a cautious one. Zhuo Fan sighed. Coming out empty with the enemy on guard, left Zhuo Fan in truly dire straits. Case in point, he didn't have the time to take back his Qilin leg as a bloody maw came from behind. Zhuo Fan, now it's my turn, ha ha ha. Chapter 449, Qilin Shield. Chapter 449, Qilin Shield. With a roar of laughter, a sharp sound came from behind Zhuo Fan. Zhuo Fan used his left arm to fend it off as his right arm returned to normal size for receiving the next blow. Zhuo Fan's red hand was now holding a tail. But he wasn't out of the woods yet, as Huangpu Tianyuan's second claw came for him. With both hands busy and being unable to use Divine Eye of the Void at such short notice, Zhuo Fan resorted to using his wings as a cover. Rip! The Earth Dragon's claw pierced them like paper, soaking him in blood. Zhuo Fan's brow trembled with pain, yet he was covered with sweat. At least the Sea Phantom wings were from a 7th-level spiritual beast and were tough enough to hold the Earth Dragon's claw back with the both of them. Zhuo Fan's wings trembled, giving his all to resist. Huangpu Tianyuan opened his mouth as the claws and tail struggled in their confinements. Zhuo Fan needed the slightest distraction and his head would roll. The sight of Zhuo Fan getting pushed back got everyone tense. He couldn't do anything but be on the receiving end. It was hard to believe Huangpu Tianyuan was just that strong with his 9 Dragons diamond body. Zhuo Fan was only in the profound heaven stage and even his 2 beast arms weren't enough to save him from a hard time. Blast it! I can only retreat. Zhuo Fan sighed, not liking it one bit as his eyes shined golden. Huangpu Tianyuan could see it clear as day that he wanted to hightail away from the battle. With Zhuo Fan's cunning, falling for his tricks once was bad enough. He had to finish him off now, when he had the upper hand. Who knew what this guy might cook up the next time around? Zhuo Fan was weak here and now, but his endless bag of tricks made him unpredictable. If by some miracle he escapes this time, it'd be even harder to beat him next time. And he needed to deal with Zhuo Fan fast. There was the imperial family to consider as well. Leaving Zhuo Fan alive now would be cutting his own feet in his fight with the imperial family. This has to end now. Huangpu Tianyuan's eyes flashed with bloodlust, making even Zhuo Fan shiver. But that wasn't important, as the golden halo in his eye promised safety. Ha ha ha, Huangpu Tianyuan, since I can't beat you, we'll be sure to meet again. Zhuo Fan snickered as he poofed away. The ripple was faint, and where a peak radiant stage expert might fail to pick it up, a Nine Dragons diamond body could. His creepy ears flinched and Huangpu Tianyuan mocked, hi, fat chance, Zhuo Fan. Nine Dragons diamond body, Earth Dragon wave. Roar! Huangpu Tianyuan howled at a spot 1,000 meters away. A beam of yellow shot from his maw, just as Zhuo Fan appeared, panting. Zhuo Fan cried inside, but it was too late. Boom! The explosion shone bright and Zhuo Fan caught the yellow pillar right in his chest. He paid a summary visit to the bowls of 5 mountains before being buried under their rubble. There was so much dust that it formed a hurricane. It soon cleared and revealed everything in ruins. A red trail came out of the rocks like a bloody spring, and robbed any hope of Zhuo Fan being alive. Steward Zhuo, Qiu Yanhai and the rest panicked. Drifting Flowers edifices and Veiled Dragon Pavilion were also worried. Huangpu Tianyuan mocked, Dragon Vein Soul is a guardian spirit of the lands. Since I train in the Nine Dragons diamond body and am also in the Earth Dragon form, I can pick up any changes in the area. Messing with space around me is like painting a target on your back. That Earth Dragon wave is my true power. Not even the Earth Dragon claw can handle it, to say nothing of getting hit squarely in the chest. He's dead beyond any doubt. Huangpu Tianyuan is invincible. Yu Wanshan's side cheered. While the Luo clan paled, their hopes seeping out of them like the blood from those rocks. Chapter 450, Poisoners Collide. Chapter 450, Poisoners Collide. What's wrong, Sir Leng? The enemy's morale is weakened. How can we retreat now? Yu Wanshan asked. Leng Wuchang's mood was heavy, pondering before speaking. I am not too clear myself, but this situation reminds me of the fight in the esoteric debate. The House Lord's heart seized. You can also feel it, right? Zhuo Fan was on the ropes, with no way out, but we all know how that turned out. Leng Wuchang's heart thumped. Yu Wanshan stood dumbstruck and fearful, turning utter defeat into complete victory. Sir Leng, are you saying this time as well he? No. He's clearly wounded, defenseless, routed. Yu Wanshan refused to believe, but still droned, though the same happened to him in the esoteric debate. No, he had it far worse then. Yet he still won, breaking Huangpu Qingtian's team and torturing them to death. Sir Leng, do you mean today's defeat is a trap? Yen Bagong shuddered. Since the esoteric debate, Zhuo Fan's savagery had left him traumatized. In any case like this one, the enemy was left for dead, waiting for them to take their head. But everyone knew Zhuo Fan was an anomaly. As long as there was breath in his body, anything could happen. They've seen it far too many times how Zhuo Fan flipped the tables in the worst cases, and ways imaginable. Leng Wuchang sighed, I am not sure. The kid is one of the few I can't see through. But one thing is certain, Zhuo Fan was defeated today, but even so, he fled. This is a trap to lure the tiger. Everyone shuddered and looked at the two armies. Without Huangpu Tianyuan to back them, they were losing ground. In this war, they would end up defeated. With both sides experts around the same level, only Luo clan's fiends stood apart. Not to mention the power couple could waste a regent estate venerable in a blink each, while the 4 scheming demons could keep 20 of them busy and suffering. If the fight started, they would have heavy casualties. And even if Huangpu Tianyuan made a lucky return, they would only get a bitter victory. And to think that they still had to fight the imperial family, they all found it not worth it. The house lords glanced at Leng Wuchang and nodded. But they had to get the Luo clan's approval first. Qiu Yanhai and Xue Qingjian showed a creepy smile. Qiu Yanhai roared, "Brothers and allies of the Luo clan, together now. Let's crush them." Elder Qiu, "Our morale is low, how?" grandmother cried. Xue Qingjian waved, "They say Lady of Steel fears nothing, so why are you so shaky? Don't you see, with the superpowers gone from each camp, the situation is in our favor. Even if it's a bitter victory, it's still a victory, hi. Grandmother looked at everyone to find it was true. She and the other house lord were too caught up in their despair over Zhuofan's loss to see with fresh eyes. With those 2 freaks out of the mix, they were the strongest. Grandmother eyed her allies, was it Steward Zhuo's plan? The 2 looked at each other, then nodded. The couple was out of the loop just as well though. Zhuofan would never do things half-measured. His loss had to be real, but that wasn't the issue here, instead turning it into a chance at victory. Something Zhuofan gave them. To get their spirits up, the power couple had to say it's Zhuofan's idea. Grandmother and company got fired up, they fell for Steward Zhuo's trap. Attack! Roar! The depressed Luo clan faction perked up on the fly and roared. In a war, the losing side would technically be down in the dumps. But led to believe it was all part of Zhuofan's ingenious and foolproof scheme, and reminded of his sly character, none took his defeat as real and stormed the enemy. The enemy froze, like sitting ducks. Does that mean we fell for his trap? Regent Estate side turned to the powers that be. But they were now listening to Leng Wuchang's conjecture. They knew it was not like Qiu Yanhai painted it, so how can they still get their spirits up? Those leaders joined them in putting on the same dumbstruck face. Regent Estate faction's morale hit rock bottom, with some even believing that the estate lord was now Zhuofan's punching bag in a convoluted scheme of his. Estate lord was tough, but nothing could stand Zhuofan's freaky mind games.